Rick, it's so great to see you, man.
Hey, good morning, Keith Jones.
Good. I got a topic for you that's inspired by Michael Singer, and it's called Running Around with a Maniac. So, for many, many years of my life, man, I was running around with this maniac. I would be in relationships, the maniac would be like we get into some kind of conflict, whether it's a friendship or with a significant other, and the maniac would be like withhold love. That's how you get them. That's how you get them to change and give you more love. I mean, it just this maniac kept giving me bad advice, and it got me into a ton of pickles. I remember one time I was at a job that was very much customer service oriented. It was a very upscale place in North Scottsdale where the customer is literally always right. And I remember that the owner really, really liked me. He really appreciated the classes that I provided for members. And I got into this thing with this member who came in late several times. And the maniac said, "That's one too many. You can't come to class today." And and then we had the she went to the manager. The manager sat down with me. He couldn't have been kinder, Rick. He's like, "Keith, why don't you just let her come back to class?" I was like, "No, she owes me an apology." And that's what the maniac said. So the guy was like, "Keith, we're not going to ask her to give you an apology. Just let this go." The maniac said, "No, we're not letting this go. It's the principal." I mean, over and over in my life, this maniac has just been robbing me of all kinds of joyful experiences, of really my inner peace. And it gives the worst advice. I mean, the worst advice, whether it's like, for some people, it's like, don't go exercise, eat this, and then it beats you up after you eat it after the fact. It's crazy. It's a maniac. So, pick a fight with your significant other. They're just sitting there minding their business. So what, they didn't do the dishes, or they forgot to say happy birthday to you, or they forgot that you had, they didn't ask you about your day. The maniac doesn't need a reason to cause trouble. It just causes trouble everywhere it goes, Rick. So until I started doing the practice, man, I'm very clear that I was running around with a maniac.
I so love that, Keith, because it's my story as well. My maniac is just like yours. This was always the need to be right. It was like I was offended, and I used to have a checklist. I think my whole first half of my life was developing this checklist about how many ways people could irritate me, and I was happy to consult that checklist, and I did daily, almost every hour. There was always somebody who was doing something that didn't live up to my expectations in the way I wanted him or her to behave. Yeah, I can remember doing goofy crap like giving a simple example. One time I was pulling into a parking lot, and sometimes you have to slow really down a lot to get into the parking lot. And this is a fairly big street, fast street, so like 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. And I'm slowing down, I must have been down to like 10 miles an hour. And there's a guy following me, which I just hated that tailgating thing. And this guy was tailgating me for blocks and blocks. And now when I'm down to almost 5 miles an hour, I thought he was going to hit me. I'm pulling in and he starts laying on the horn. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, buddy. So I'm doing one of those. And he came in right behind me and he parked. And so I got out of the car. I was going to give him a piece of my mind. And I'm walking. And I have my keys in my hand. And I'm thinking, maybe I just could rip a line across that damn door. I'll rip some paint off of that guy. And I'll bet you in that example, I probably was irritated for a good hour.
Oh, wow.
And even after 45 minutes had gone by, I was still regurgitating all of this nonsense, all of this need to be crazy about something that offended me. And so, after a half a lifetime of that, I started realizing I'm giving up a lot of power. I'm giving up a lot of self-respect. I'm giving up a lot of inner peace and the opportunity to do something else with that time by going forward on this stuff. Now, I got to tell you, that kind of thing still happens. I still have things that trigger, but with the practice, I'm able to say, whoa, 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 that's not you. That's, where that goes. That's not going to help you any. That's not going to give you what you're looking for in your core, what you want, what you've been striving for. That's going to take you into the life of the maniac again, that's non-productive and also totally unpeaceful, totally difficult, totally selfish.
Oh, Rick, I mean, the example you gave, I can think about things like that that I've done too. This maniac, or the ego, or my ego, is just so insidious. It is never, never satisfied.
That's right.
I can't think of one time where running around with this guy was helpful. It's been the exact opposite all the time. In addition to me complaining about everything and closing my heart, or trying to make people pay, and some people do it differently. Some people yell and scream. Their maniac yells and scream. Mine didn't do that. Mine withdraws. Is withholds love and affection from other people, and like that's going to actually provide me, that's going to make them like, oh, you know what? Let me give Keith love and affection. He's withholding it. So no, they're looking at that like, who's this 5-year-old that I'm dating? Like that's what the maniac is. It's crazy. Like, can we be adults here? But in addition to that withholding thing, the other thing that it did was complain a lot. And my maniac loves to improve other people, loves to what they're wearing, how they're dressed, how they speak, what they wrote, their ideas, how they play. It doesn't matter, man. This thing always has something to say. And I ran around that thing for years, Rick. And then, like you said, finally, when I discovered the practice, I was able to, to stand him down. But every once in a while, I'll see him creep up when I'm not on my P's and Q's. I'll see the maniac stand back up and have something to say, Rick. But I can tell you that maniac has cost me a lot of suffering in my life. And now that I'm no longer running around with it, life is really great. When I hear people, you talk about how with the driver you came home and it was an hour long that you were still thinking about that and ruminating over that and what you should have done and all those things. People do that every day. They come home from the workday and they have been upset or miserable at work. And what do they do when they come home? All they do is talk about the workday when they get home. You're not at work anymore. Why are we still talking about that? And I see people do that. Oh, that's the maniac that's doing that. That's not you. That's the maniac. But you've been held captive. You are a prisoner. You got Stockholm syndrome going on with you and the maniac. It's, it's crazy, man. So hopefully people will listen to the podcast, have some kind of practice of their own, and they will free themselves, liberate themselves from the maniac inside, because we all have one. We all have one.
We
Ricky,
do. And he's always there and he's always ready to jump, always ready to jump, the more buttons you have, the worse your life will be.
oh, oh, it loves buttons, right? And you said
Oh man,
you had to
I
do it.
hate that. When
Yeah,
that happens, there's no excuse. How can anybody, you go down that road, your
it's
life, I mean, I tell you, you're you're in a different place and it's not a good one.
you said it, Rick. And when you live that way, and we said this before, you don't have a life, you have a struggle.
You have a struggle. So true, Keith.
Right. Well, thank you for the show, Rick. I love you.
I love you, man. Hey, I got to tell you, it's just wonderful being with you on these things, just because it's so much fun to talk about all of our vulnerabilities and foibles and imperfections, because we're both, like all people, we're full of all kinds of cracks and issues and brokenness. And good Lord, you have this covering that makes you look like you're civilized or you're normal. I don't think there is such a thing.
Unless you're working on yourself, man, it's a mess inside. Like,
It's a mess inside. You got to be mindful and you got to take the time and you've got to want to and you've got to be disciplined about it. There's no other way.
no other way, Rick. I love you, Rick.
I love you, Keith. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.